Find the problem and the money will find you. Hey, it's John Logar here from Consulting Unleashed. I'm here in Times Square. You can see the NBC studios just behind me here. You can see the big signs of Times Square, Lion King. This is where I'm standing at the moment and looking at the Times Square Hall, which is just above me in that tower. Anyway, find the problem and the money will find you. I had a couple of conversations today which kind of repeated themselves. I had people who obviously had a service, you know, they were looking to build into a new niche market or a new target market, and they were looking to expand, and what they were looking for was they wanted to generate leads and opportunities to go direct to the market. And my question was, when I started thinking about it, I started asking questions about, so tell me a little about, you know, what their current situation is, what their challenges, what their problems are. And the funny thing was, is they didn't know anything about the market and they'd never spoken to anybody in this particular niche market. So I said, but by going straight out to the market, how do you possibly think that you're going to have the capability to solve their problem, right? So one of the things that I sat down and thought about for a moment in explaining this, I said, listen, what you want to do is you want to reach out to people in this market first. You want to talk to owners of businesses in the niches that you're going into before you go out there and reach out to make some form of offer, because unless you know or can pinpoint what their challenge or what their problem is in terms of growing their business, it's going to be very difficult for you to provide a solution, because you're going to go out thinking that you've got the answer and you may not even know what they're really actually interested in terms of the hook or the engagement. So ultimately you want to find out four key things. One, you want to find out what their frustrations are. Number two, you want to know what their aspirations or what their wants are. Number three, you want to find out what their fears, and you want to find out what their aspirations are. So one of the things that I will say is one of the best things you can do is reach out to a business owner with the view of just understanding their business and how their business works. That's all you got to do. It's not about, you know, how you're going to solve the problem or how you're going to come and give them some leads or how you're going to change their online presence or do their digital marketing or how you're going to change their business with your business consulting. You want to start asking questions to understand what the business is doing, how the business is going, and what's working, what's not working, and more importantly, what their frustrations or what their biggest challenges are, bridging the gap to the objective that they're trying to achieve in their business. So the way I would approach it is, the first approach would be to, again, you want to speak to people. I like to speak to influencers in the market. I like to speak to CEOs of large corporations and companies, and also I like to speak to middle companies and some smaller businesses. So I get a cross-pollination of about 8 people within the market, and I'd reach out to them and say, hey, look, I'm looking for a way to innovate and improve opportunities for this industry, but to be able to do that, I need to be able to speak to some people who've got experience, who've been around, and also perhaps who people who have held ownership positions within companies or even been involved in industry associations or some level of leadership within the industry. So I'm reaching out to speak to you. So if it's okay if I ask you a few questions, anything that I find or anything that I come up with as a solution or opportunity, I'm more than happy to share. So there's a little bit of value add to give back to them. So from that prospect, what questions do you want to know? So the questions you want to ask is things like, well, how did you get into this business in the first place? How did you get into this industry? What made you start a business, or what made you join this business, or what made you buy this business in the first place? The second thing is, what do you like about this business? What do you like about this industry? What do you like about what's going on for your business? The next question is, what don't you like about this industry? Now, you need to listen carefully when you hear them say what they don't like about their business industry, because there may be some indicators to challenges and frustrations that they have with growing their business. So one of the things you want to be aware of is in what they don't like, they might be pointing into the direction of some of the industry challenges. There might be trends that are affecting the industry. Maybe the market is they're being disrupted and they're noticing this, or they may see an inadequacy in the way that the market or their business is working with its current customers. So they may be having challenges in the customer base. So once we understand what some of the things they don't like, then ask them, you know, well, how do clients find you? Why do clients buy your product or service as opposed to a competitor's product or service? You know, why should people buy from you as opposed to going elsewhere? How do they buy? What is the buying cycle? What is the decision that prompts them to make a purchase of your product? How long does it take a customer to buy your product or service? What is your sales process in how you help a customer to buy your product or service? So if you know what some of these things are, what their structure is, then you maximize the opportunity to really understand the business. You might even ask, how are the margins in comparison to competitors? In your opinion, what are some of the trends that are affecting your industry? You also might be asking things like, where do you think change needs to happen? And at the end of the day, you might even ask simple questions. Look, what keeps you up at night about your business? Those sorts of things. So what you're trying to gather as part of this information is, what are their frustrations? What are their wants? What are their fears, and what are their aspirations? Because now when you go and reach out to the market with a little bit of knowledge, if you've spoken to half a dozen people, you'll very quickly start to understand that niche. So now you can actually reach out to people with their frustrations, with their wants, with knowing what their deepest fears are and also what their aspirations are. This makes it easy for you to engage. This also makes it easy for you to craft your campaigns, your offers, and your outreach into the market. The other thing that this does, and you'll find yourself in this situation quite often, is people will say something like, these are all really great questions, intelligent questions. Can you tell me a little bit about, what you